On this episode of Locked On Angels, so what's up with the Halo hitters? Why are they striking out so much? What's the approach? And how come it doesn't seem like they're adjusting? Sam Blum got some answers from Johnny Washington, the Angels hitting coach, about all of those issues. So we're going to share what he said, and then we're going to respond. It's time to get locked on with Mike and Jon, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to give back to the Super Halo Bros for all this Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On Everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? You can turn your TV into a gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatibility controller required.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is Jon, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother Jon.
It's our fourth season as the host of Locked On Angels, talking Angels baseball with you Monday through Friday, every single weekday. In addition to Gavin Carlson doing a great job with the postcasts as well. He goes live right after the game, and he always does a great job. A great place to catch instant reactions and get together with fellow everydayers. On today's show, Sam Blum of The Athletic spoke with Johnny Washington, the hitting coach, about the Halos hitting woes, and we're going to share the questions. Johnny shared some answers, and then we're going to give our responses to what Johnny had to say. Mike, let's get into it right now. What's wrong with the hitting? First, let's start with this tweet from Sam Blum. He said, Angels offense over the last 15 games, 167 strikeouts, 19 walks. They've been outscored 77-35 over that stretch. Locked On Angels Hall of Famer Brent McGuire tweeted, in addition, the Angels have faced two starting pitchers this week who have set single-game career highs in whiffs, swings, and misses. Joe Ryan on Sunday had 26. Andrew Heaney last Wednesday had 24. Both of those figures are top 5 marks by any pitcher in a single start this season. Mike Trout had this to say. He said, the energy's down. We're grinding just a little bit. We've got to keep the energy that we had in the beginning. Logan O'Hoppe said, we're not where we want to be the last couple of games, but we have over 100 or whatever to go. You can't put too much weight on one game here or there. We're going to turn it around, and we can turn it around, and it's going to turn around. So how do they turn it around, Michael?
Yeah, Sam Blum spoke with Johnny Washington and wanted to know how he's going to turn it around. So he asked some specific questions about why they're slumping, how the team can break out. So we're going to share the first 3 questions in this segment. We'll share Johnny's answers, and then we're going to respond at the end of this segment and the next few segments. So first question that he asked Johnny Washington was this. It's no secret that the offense is struggling. So where do you feel like the guys are at right now? And Johnny said, we're in the midst of what I think a team goes through every year. You know what I mean? It's just part of the game. We've got to grind through this storm. It's been really tough. It's a tough part of the storm. And I feel like the process is good, but we haven't been on the other side to see better results just yet.
Yeah. Second question. The first 2 weeks were very good. What were you doing then that you're trying to get back to? Johnny's answer was, I think we were ending the at-bat when we needed to end it, putting some good swings on baseballs. Got a good pitch to do it with. The plan's been great. The guys have been trying to execute. Some guys, I think, have missed some pitches, but it's part of the game, man. It's still early. I'm looking forward to turning it around.
And then the third question was this. When you're in those hitters meetings, is the message big picture? Is it game plan specific to the opposing pitcher? What's going on in there? And Johnny said, it's more like just stay the course. Throughout 162 games, each team will have reservations for a period of time. The hits that you were getting earlier won't fall, and you won't get as lucky. And there's going to be some times where you're going to have to grind through it. And that's just part of what we're going through right now. We're optimistic and hopeful that we're going to turn this thing around. So to summarize, Johnny said the lack of hitting is just part of the game. The game plan is great. Guys just need to execute. And if the Halo hitters stay the course, things will turn around. Johnny, can you respond to Johnny Washington's comments to Sam Blum?
Yeah, I'll say that to stay the course, well, the course sucks, Mike. The course that they're on sucks. What is this, Mario Circuit, Toad's Turnpike? I feel like we're playing Mario Kart here. Stay the course. Look, I understand that you come into the season with a game plan, but how much evidence do you need that this game plan is not working for these Halo hitters right now, if at all? I mean, would it work on another version of the Angels with this game plan and staying the course and, making sure that you stick to the game plan? Would that work on an Astros team? Would that work on a Yankees team? Would that work on a Dodgers team? I don't know, but I do know that this team has lots of talent up and down the lineup, and whatever you're doing to preach to them what to do at the plate is not yielding anything out of their talent. It's not utilizing their gifts. It's not utilizing their talents. They're major league ball players who know how to hit. They know what they're doing up there. And so we alluded to this yesterday. At what point do these guys break away from the plan, right? It feels so one-dimensional when they're up there at the plate. You said it last week and it's rang in my head since then. Everybody looks like everyone else. You've got Taylor Ward, who, it's 4 Taylor Wards in a row. It's 4 Jorge Solers in a row, 4 Mike Trouts in a row, because they're all swinging and doing the same thing. You look at the bat trajectory, you look at the kinds of swings they're going for, it all looks the same. So to say we've got to stay the course, this is just a slump over the course of a 162 game season. I understand the perspective of, zooming out and understanding that, yeah, it is a long season, but the problem is that you were doing one thing and now you're not doing that, and you've made no adjustments to compensate for that. So I understand the notion of Sam asking, what were you doing the first 2 weeks that worked, but now it's not working? Are you trying to get back to that? And this notion of, we got to end the at bat when we needed to end it. Can you give me, what do you think that means in your opinion?
I think what he's saying there, Johnny, is that he wants them to find that specific pitch and hit that specific pitch, and that they're in control versus the pitcher being in control. I think that that's really what he's alluding to here, is that you're dictating how the pitcher is throwing to you versus how you're responding to what he's throwing. I think the problem is with this Angel team is when they get hot, then the pitchers will adjust. But they've adjusted now to this team when they were doing really well and hitting a bunch of home runs. Part of that was because they were in Tampa Bay, and that's just how that stadium works. But the pitchers have adjusted to them. It just doesn't feel like we've adjusted back. And
right.
I'm not surprised by these comments from Johnny Washington, because do you remember when he got hired, we weren't super thrilled. We were glad that they got a different guy than Marcus Timms, right? And Jeremy Reed from the time before. But his comments were very ambiguous. His comments were very 50,000 feet.
And a little defensive, if I remember, too. And in contrast to what Barry Enright had to say, where it was like, hey, here's what we're going to work on with Reed, and here's the game plan for these pitchers. Like first pitch strikes is what we're going to emphasize. Barry had a very specific set of answers for Sam when he got hired. But when it came to Johnny Washington, there wasn't a plan in terms of an approach like Marcus Timms had, where it was, attack the zone, attack it early, attack it often. That's why they were one of the, top home run hitting teams in 2023, but the rest of the results weren't great. And so to hear Johnny Washington not really give a specific game plan was kind of what we got from him when he talked to Sam Blum, right?
Yeah. And what we got from Barry Enright was some specifics, some details. I mean, he went as far as to say that there is a Slack channel, that they are keeping track of everybody throughout the organization so that they know what they're working on and what pitches that they throw. Now, Johnny may not be that type of guy. I get when people communicate, they're not going to communicate everything. And I get that they're just going to share maybe what is on the surface, and that's fine. But the thing that we walked away from that first interview with Johnny Washington a couple of years ago was that it sounded a bit more like he was going to specifically work with each hitter and give them some sort of an approach rather than just giving them a copy and paste approach. These answers with Sam Blum just recently feel more like hey, I need you to fit this mold. I need you to fit this idea, right? And it's going to work for some, but it's not going to work for everybody. And I think Taylor Ward is a good example of that, John. He's not a bad hitter. He's going to regress. He's getting older, right? But he's not a bad hitter. He's down at 200. He's batting 200. That's just not him. 240, 250, 260. He can be somebody that can get to the 270, 280, 290 mark. But you can tell that he's really struggling with whatever the approach is, that he's swinging over things with whatever he's asked to do at the plate. And I'm sure that they're processing a lot of information. They're processing a lot of details. And what has been communicated to them in the first few weeks, it was working, but adjustments were made. And it doesn't seem like adjusting back to that is a part of the plan. It sounds like whatever Johnny is preaching to them, he believes that things will ebb and flow, and it's going to flow back to the Angels at some point. But the problem is that when you've lost to the Pirates and when you've lost to the Twins, and you're finding yourself now 3 games under 500, and you started at 8-4, and now, gosh, you're what, 4-11 or 4-12? Quick math, but these guys are just not responding to what the plan is, or the pitchers are figuring out what they're doing at the plate. And they look completely confused and overmatched every time they go out there against pitchers that are not dominating pitchers. Andrew Heaney is not dominating. Joe Ryan's having a good year, but it's not. They didn't have to face Paul Skeens, and he dominated the Dodgers. He would have no-hit the Angels based off of what we've seen from the Angels the last few weeks.
Well, I got to say, Sam Olber over at Locked On Cubs brought up Andrew Heaney as, they got some tough games ahead and they got to face Andrew Heaney. So maybe the narrative has turned around on Andrew Heaney and we exposed it, right? We got exposed by Andrew Heaney, and now that's the narrative around him is, he's pretty dang good. So, but I just brought that up to say, here's the thing. When you talk about ending the at-bat when you should end it and when you need to end it, I hear you, the way you explained it made sense to me. The problem is, Mike, what it sounds like to me, him saying, I think they've missed some pitches. Of course, they've stared at things down the middle. They've stared at things that they should be hitting at. But that's the problem, is you can't sit around and wait for that to come around again. Right. Because it's not going to. No. If they get away with 0-1 down the middle and now you're 0-2, you're not going to see another fastball in the zone. They're going to make you chase. They're going to make you reach out of the zone after an off-speed pitch. And when you talk about the players individually, I think that we've seen some results. I think that, Taylor Ward, obviously a good fastball hitter. Joe Adell, obviously, this season has been a great breaking ball hitter. And so, we've seen growth. We've seen steps forward. We've seen Zach Neto take big steps forward last season in terms of hitting. So I'm not here to pile on Johnny Washington. What I am here to pile on is the fact that, they just missed their pitch. Yeah. Well, then find another one, right? You have to find another one.
And doesn't it make sense? When you saying, here's the light bulb that went off in my brain as you just said that. It now makes sense why they look completely lost at the plate. Because if they miss that fastball, I feel like the narrative in their mind is, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Now, oh no. Now what do I do? You know what I mean? And then they end up chasing, they're swinging over stuff. And that was your pitch. Yeah. You missed your pitch. You didn't end the at bat when you were supposed to. Okay. So what do I get now? Well, I got to probably look for another fastball. They're not going to throw you that again.
No.
And so
take a walk.
That's what it feels like. Right. Yeah. And then talk about taking a walk. Gosh, the reason why they're not getting walks is because they're chasing bad pitches, but also umpires have really hurt them. But
True.
You don't get a good strike zone if you're wild in the strike zone.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of a double-edged sword for them. It's kind of your fault. You've been chasing a lot of crap. You've been swinging at a lot of nonsense, and the ump behind you is going to go, I think that's a strike because he swung at it last time, right?
Do you remember what Sal Fasano said before the season about the pitching? He said, if something isn't working for you that day, then you're not going to sit on the mound and cry about it. You're not going to sit out there and go, well, I can't get my slider to work. Then figure out something else.
Right.
And that's the same mentality that needs to be injected into the offense and Johnny Washington and whatever he's preaching. So I don't buy into the fact that, hey, if we just keep doing it and keep staying the course and keep doing the same game plan we've always had, that it's going to turn around. I don't think it's going to turn around. And that's why I think they need to make adjustments. They clearly are not making adjustments at the plate. And this is something that they absolutely need to do moving forward. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. We're going to continue with our conversation about what Johnny Washington had to say about the hitting and their struggles what's with all the strikeouts? Johnny Washington shared what he believes the issue is. We'll share that details and we'll give our responses coming right up.
How about a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? It's Wonderful Pistachios. They're filled with a good source of protein, and they're one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to keep you going all day long. And they're great for those of you that maybe are trying to get healthy, maybe trying to eat healthy. They're great because you're not grabbing for the gummy snacks, which is my vice. And I love gummy snacks. And
Cavities, Michael. No cavities.
Man, it's not even about the cavities. It's just, they're just so good. And it's so good in my belly. So I love Wonderful Pistachios. The no shell variety is my favorite because you can grab a handful and go. But if you're somebody that likes to fidget a little bit, the in shell variety is really great, especially when they have a little salt on them. Delicious. You should try it. Check out wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Credit to Sam Blum of The Athletic getting this interview and just asking the questions that I think we all wanted to hear. And so Sam does a great job in terms of that. Shocked that the hitting coach, Johnny Washington, actually was allowed to speak to the media. Mike, remember the embargo they had on talking to the media a couple of seasons ago? Well, that seems to have changed since last season. So the next 3 questions here, it begins with, what's with all the strikeouts? Mike, why don't you hit us with that first question from Sam?
Yeah, he said, ask this question. The high strikeouts and low walk numbers are glaring. Yeah, they are. Are you seeing anything in the at-bats that are making those outcomes so consistent? Johnny said, from a bird's eye view, no. Like I said, the biggest thing is ending the at-bat when we want it to end and continuing to swing at good pitches. Dial in a few guys. A few guys had hot starts. Now they've cooled off. Just trying to piece it together and get back to having good at-bats as a team, finding a way to score one more run than the other team.
Cliche. So Sam said, you're not seeing anything consistent, like are guys being overly aggressive or are they being too patient? Johnny said, there's at-bats here and there where overall as a group, guys took some pitches where they look back in hindsight that they probably feel like they should have swung. The best pitch in that at-bat to swing at. As a group, yes, but those are things, like I said, as a group, we're going through. It's something we've got to battle to get past.
And then the third question was, you mentioned some guys cooling off. Trout fits that category. What are you seeing from him? And Johnny said, I think he's in the same place. I think he's working on some timing things and trying to get his groove, find his groove. And hopefully he'll find it soon. 100 at-bats, and I think he'll find it. So again, John, a re-emphasis of the narrative in these 3 answers. And it's very similar. It's get that pitch, that best pitch, and do something with it. And it sounds like Johnny Washington believes that over time, things are just going to fall into place. So I serve it to you, my brother. Do you agree with that?
It's not going to fall into place if you can't adjust back to what opposing pitchers are doing to you. The book is out on the halos, Mike. And if they all look the same, as we've been discussing, in fact, the way Johnny Washington even talks about the players, overall as a group, we're trying to, battle back against these, and they're all missing the best pitch in the at bat, and so as a group they're missing the best pitch in the at bat, and as a group they're not making any adjustments, and as a group they're continuing to have the same kind of swings, expecting that pitcher to give them what they want, and that's just not going to happen, especially after other teams have done their homework on you. Other teams know what you're good at, and maybe that's why for 2 weeks they were really good. And there was enough of a sample size for teams to go, oh, you know what? Let's not pitch to Kyron Paris that way, because that guy, obviously, he's crushing it right now. And sure enough, the last couple of weeks for Kyron Paris have been a huge struggle because pitchers adjusted. And when everybody adjusts to this group, this collective, the same kind of hitters 1 through 9, it's going to yield the kind of results we've seen over the last 2 weeks. So I think what I'm mad at here, what gets my goat here, is the fact that it's the same answer as before. Well, they just missed that one perfect pitch that they needed to hit. Okay, then what do you do after that? And like you said, they just look lost up there if they don't get the pitch that they were supposed to hit or supposed to do something with. You got to adjust. It doesn't matter if you miss that 0-1 fastball down the middle, if they throw it on the edges, go the other way. Watch what the Pirates did. Watch what the Twins did. By the way, Twins, we got them hot again because they clobbered the Guardians yesterday. So you're welcome, Minnesota, for playing against a get-right team in the Angels. But again, Mike, it just comes back to the way Johnny discussed this, and maybe that's by virtue of the fact that this is a quick interview or what have you, but the way he discussed it is as a group, not as individuals, as a group. Everyone's doing this, everyone's doing that. Everyone should be looking for that perfect pitch. And pitchers, there's a whole human being on the other side of this at bat with a brain and data and recordings and video to look at you and see how you're going to approach things. And so they're not just going to serve you up the cookie that you're looking for.
Yeah. And this is why the argument where it's like, oh, it's Johnny's fault versus, oh, it's the player's fault. And then the argument is, well, the players have to hit. They're professional hitters. It's why it's not so black and white and it's very nuanced, because they are getting pounded with all of this information. Here's what you should do. But I do agree with the everydayers that have said, man, these are professional hitters. They should adjust. And that's also on the coaching, by the way, because when they get up to the plate, I think that they need to look down that third base line and see where that third baseman is and lay a bunt down. Next, Nolan Shawnoel at bat, when he's healthy, he needs to lay a bunt down that third base line if they're struggling to get hits. I didn't see anybody choke up except for Zach Neto. I saw Zach Neto choke up because that's how you have a quicker swing through the strike zone. That's how you slap the ball. And that's the thing. They're just finding that perfect pitch instead of getting a good pitch and then going, I'm going to make some contact and see what happens. John, they did that in the first couple of weeks, in the first couple of games. They just made some contact. Now, the offense wasn't fantastic, but the thing that they did in those first few games that they haven't done in the last few games is that they had productive outs. They were making contact, hitting the ball on the ground. And isn't that the theme that Bo Porter wants when they get on base and when they're on base and that they're causing chaos? Any sort of contact causes a bit of chaos. I mean, we saw that in the Cubs game on Sunday night, right? There was a ground ball to third baseman is back, and he takes a couple of steps back, pumps his glove, and throws it to first, and Trey Turner beat it out. If you hit the ball on the ground, the likelihood of you getting on base, the percentages go up. But the Angels keep either swinging and missing or popping the ball up. Man, slap that sucker. Do what they did in the old Nintendo games. Like, swing down. Remember our buddy Keith Hutchison, who was on our softball team? Dude would, like, we called him the hammer because he would swing the bat as a hammer. But you know what he did, John? He got on base because he put the ball on the ground and then he used his speed to get on base. Now, I know it's a simple, silly example, but the Angels, as major league players, they're not doing that. And the managers and the coaches are not directing them to, hey, look at the hole you got there. Look at where the third baseman is. That should be the first conversation that they have when they walk up there, but none of that's happening right now.
What does he do, Pete? Gets on base. Good little Moneyball reference there for you. But you're right, Mike. It's these guys are not reading the room. And how many times have we said that they need to read the room when it comes to, Joe Adell's base running? Hey, bro, you got to read the room. Is now a good time for you to try to steal second with Mike Trout coming up behind you? Probably not, right? That's a conversation we've had in the past. And we've had situations where we've had to tell these guys, you have to read the room. Well, now that conversation is turned to the hitting. You've got to read the room. And you're right. Nolan Shawnoel, they play him so far off that third base bag that a perfect bunt down the line, which, by the way, drives me insane that we have all these conversations about, why is Ron having this guy bunt? Why is he having him do a suicide squeeze? And we have we seen one?
He's gun
this
shy.
time that they've been
gun shy
struggling? Like, and not to say that they are trying to, get that run home with a bunt, but just like shaking it up and doing something to get on base. But you're right. Zach Neto seems to be the only one who hasn't been affected by this. And I don't think it's a coincidence, Mike, that he's just recently come back to this team. And you mentioned the Cubs and the Phillies and how that game ended up going. What about, Giants and Rangers? I mean, Elliot Ramos was, hits a infield thing and it gets past first, it gets past third, and he hits the little league home run, and that's how they win it. That's how they walk it off. So you're right. Getting the ball in play causes chaos, and there has not been enough chaos with these guys except for all the strikeouts. They haven't been willing to take the walks. They're striking out so much because they're sticking to their singular idea of what they need to do at the plate, trying to get the pitch that they missed back again. It just doesn't work that way. Baseball doesn't work that way. And so to have this zoomed out view of, well, it's a long season and eventually things will ebb and flow and get back to it. Maybe, because, but staying the course isn't going to get it done right now.
That's not coaching. That's just being wishful thinking, right? Like
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
being hopeful.
That's
and of
what I'm
course, it's
frustrated with.
162 games. Yeah, things are going to ebb and flow. Absolutely. But you want more, I guess, more ebb than you want flow, if that's the benefit, right? And so that's the struggle with Johnny Washington right now is it's like, yeah, of course, over a period of time, things are going to swing back. But don't you want to be the one that's dictating that instead of having the opposition dictate that for you?
Well, and also this is not, Mike Trout's going to have his ebbs and flows throughout a season, or Taylor Ward's going to be a streaky hitter. This is not that.
No.
This is everyone going cold at the exact same time.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have a Taylor Ward go cold, but somebody like Logan O'Hoppe gets hot. And so things do balance out. And so if Johnny Washington is applying that philosophy of, one guy gets cold, one guy gets hot, that's not the same as literally everybody in your starting nine going cold at the same time.
How about those NBA playoffs, huh? Celtics, or not the Celtics, the Cavs. They crushed the Heat last night by like 9 million points. And so when you're watching a game like that, FanDuel is giving you an opportunity to get in on all the action, even if it's a blowout. Right now, new customers with FanDuel can place bets that are $5, and you're going to get $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. And you can bet on anything, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into the player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can combine all the props into a same game parlay for a chance to win big. So get started and don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today.
Getting to the final three questions that we're covering on today's show. Sam Blum interviewing Johnny Washington, the hitting coach for the Halos. First question of the final three here are, how do you balance being proactive with this situation without panicking? Johnny's answer was, that's the art of coaching. It's understanding the guys in the locker room. It's understanding the personnel, having the feel for where they're at as a group, going through underlying numbers and figuring out where the meat and potatoes of some of these struggles are, or some of the successes come from, and dialing that in. And I think in our case, it's ending the at-bat when we should end it. I'm laughing because it's like the 40th time we've heard that. And when do we get a chance to score a guy from second or third base just to make sure we drive that guy in?
Okay, John, you're going to hate this next answer, but here's the question. The underlining numbers, are you looking at guys individually or as the offense as a whole? Johnny's answer, just for the whole team as a group. And if there's some individual things that stand out, we'll talk through those and address those, but more just as a group. Find a way as a group to continue to have team at bats, continuing to swing at the right pitch, then battle and wear down the starters as best they can.
And then Sam's question here, is there anything to be said for mixing things up in a significant way, changing up who plays, where they bat, who's even on the active roster? Can you spur things like that? Johnny's answer was, our group is good. I think those guys, wherever they are that given day in the lineup, they're more than equipped and prepared to give a good at bat. So to sum these three answers up from Johnny, the phrase used throughout the interview was ending the at bat when we should, meaning we got our pitch and did something with it. And we've already covered, what if they miss it? What if they don't get that good pitch?
Yeah.
Does that feel like a one size fits all approach? Mike, you make me laugh because you said, John, you're going to hate this. And he's talking about, viewing things as a whole team and as a group.
Mm-hmm.
That drives me insane.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to speak personally because I know that our show's 30 minutes and for the most part we'll cover multiple topics across an episode, but maybe in the off season we might spend a lot of time on one topic. If you everydayers knew the amount of hours I've put into exploring what's up with this guy and what's up with his hitting approach. Why does, for example, the other night, Andrew Heaney, why are the guys swinging through 89, 90 mile an hour fastballs? Did some digging to figure out, it's the spin rate on his fastball that's fooling guys. I get it. I talked about Trout a couple of years ago and how he needed to adjust to pitches at the top of the plate and what he was doing wrong. I have spent countless hours on this stuff. So to hear that, like, they're looking at it at a surface level, number one, it's because you're treating all of these players as the same type of hitter, which doesn't work. And number two, I'm like, get the nerds in there to do some research on these guys and pass it along to you, because do you have any nerds in the front office? I'm starting to think that you don't, Mike, if they're just looking at it all at a surface level. So that personally is frustrating to me, because I feel like I'm putting in more effort than some of these guys on the in the Angels organization here.
Yeah. And to address a comment from yesterday, one of our everydayers sarcastically was just like, well, do you guys know more than the players, know more than the coaches? That isn't the basis of the conversation here. We're not saying that we know more. We're just saying, here's what we see. How come they don't see that? And let's just be straight. The everydayers see that. Yeah. People see that. And so to hear group, team as a whole sounds very, very TED Talk. Like you're just trying to get your information out there in 15 minutes. It doesn't sound like you've done a deep dive, or if you have, you've been unwilling to share that with us for whatever reason. And maybe that's the case. But the reality is that we are all seeing what's happening and there's no adjustment taking place. And then the answers from the guy that's supposed to bring the adjustments is, this is what we're doing for everybody. And then at the same time, Jon needs to copyright the phrase "be button swing," because on this show, you've said that multiple times over the last few years, talking about Matt Thaiss, but other guys. And that's what we've seen over the last few weeks, is the same hitter, same approach, same play all of the time. So that's what this conversation is really about. It's about us going, hey, I'm in my real life, not a ball player. I work at a church. In Jon's real life, he's not a ball player. He's a writer and a musician. And we can see this and we can point out what's happening here. So it's not an announcement that we're better. It's not an announcement that everydayers are better. It's an announcement that, Johnny, why can't you see this? Yeah. And players, why can't you adjust to this? What's happening there? And Jon, after all of these questions and all of these answers, here's what's happening there. I don't know, because everything that he just shared was so ambiguous and so 50,000 feet. And so I can understand why fans get really frustrated with this team and this coaching staff.
I think I know what's going on, and I think it's self-explanatory. It's treating every player and every batter as if they're the same type of hitter 1 through 9 in the lineup. And that's why you hear a lot of language like as a group, as a team. No, not individually, but sometimes if we look into it, we'll find something. But they're looking at everything, as you said, at a 50,000 foot view, and that's not going to get it done. That's not going to solve their problems. Each player has a unique swing. Each player has something that they bring to the table that's not working right now, because you are trying to fit them into the same mold, into the same type of approach, and into the same type of at bat. And I'm not speaking, out of my butt here. I'm talking about what we've seen, Mike, as you've described. We all see it. We all can see it on the field. We all see what's going on. And I think Johnny's answers here just confirm the fact that, yeah, they are all getting treated the same. They are all told to have the same approach. And that approach is not working. I think this says a lot about what's wrong with the Angels right now.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. You're going to get local analysis on a national scale, and my brother Jon is on that show as well, so you're going to get really good nerd stats. You can find MLB Game Night on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
Man, you should have heard the stats I had last night for Tomoyuki Sagano for the Orioles. That guy spun the baseball last night, got his splitter looked nasty against the Yankees, so I brought that up on the game night show last night.
He was on my GM episode. I wanted that guy.
I know. I remember. I was going to say, was he on your fantasy team? Oh wait, you don't play fantasy. That's,
nope,
not anymore. Hey, give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels. Connect with Mike and I on Twitter and Instagram at Super Halo Bros. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to today's show. Get in the comments section. We'd love to hear from you. What do you think about Johnny's comments? Are we off base? Are we on base? Are we hitting a home run here? In our opinion, it explains so much about what's going on with the Halos right now. Mike, what do we have on deck for Wednesday's show?
We'll recap that game from today, and then we're going to talk about not Johnny Washington's opinions, but actually what the hitters have to say about themselves, specifically 4 hitters that Jeff Fletcher spoke with about how they approached the game. We're going to share that tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
All right, we'll get into that conversation after we recap Game 1 against the Mariners. Seattle, oh no! I'm probably going to regret laughing like that.
If we could get right against them, that would be fantastic.
That'd be
One note: we have more wins at this time this season than we did last season. They were 11-19 at the end of April, and we're 12-15 going into tonight's game. So that's better.
That's the sound of breathing in the hopium. All right, friends, we hope you'll come back and join us. Until then, my name is Jon, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother Jon.
Thanks for being here with us, everybody. Can't even talk. You're making me laugh. Thanks for being here with us, and we'll see you back here on Wednesday.
Oh, the Mariners. Oh, my gosh.
What if we take 2 from the Mariners? That would
Please.
just be great.
Oh,
Let's get right against the Mariners.